After watching his brother get paralyzed in a vicious kickboxing match, Kurt Sloan learns the art of Muay Thai to get his revenge. Hello, everyone. I'm Caleb J.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
Welcome to an episode of Beyond the Bed. All right, today we are talking about one of action star Jean-Claude Van Damme's more well-known films in his extensive filmography, Kickboxer. While the film was box office success enough to warrant a still actually ongoing franchise, and considered by many fans of 80s action cinema, specifically Van Damme's, to be one of his better films, it would get annihilated by critics who found the film dull and dumb. To point out at least two things I caught my eye from the critics' perspective. On that note, I will pass over to you, Connor, to say what you thought, even though it sounds like you hated it. So go on.
I will say this. We did Kickboxer on the wrong show. I fucking loved this. This movie kicked ass. And I wish we'd vetted it a little bit more because this feels more like a filmgasm than it does a Beyond the Bad. This was a really cool movie.
I just want to say this is mostly based off the list that you made.
Yeah.
I just go off it, so you should have vetted better.
I just compile a list. You are doing everything else. So it's a little bit more on you, I would say.
It's 100% on you.
Regardless, it's a pretty good movie, and you should be happy about that.
I am, because I thought it was pretty good also.
Yeah.
Look at if you see my Letterboxd, I think I gave it like 3.5 out of 5.
So did I. This is sporting a 36% Rotten Tomatoes score out of 11 reviews. So not really that fair. And a 64% audience score. There is no critics consensus because not enough people could be bothered to review this. But I get why this has a fan following. This is a cool movie. I mean, it's a complete ripoff of the Karate Kid and Rocky, but I don't fucking care. I enjoyed this. This was neat.
Yeah, like I'll get into it. This I'm not going to get into it now, but are not going to ask a question yet, but kind of beef up what my one question will be. When you look at like the 80s action scene, we don't talk about it a lot, obviously, because most of the time we're talking about horror or something. But besides that, I am a massive fan of the 80s action scene. Obviously you have your Stallones, you have your Schwarzeneggers, and to an extent your realists, even though Die Hard came out in like 88. It was like the tail end of the 80s. But you got these like the big dogs, you know what I mean? And there is let's just be honest, there's a hierarchy almost, right? That audiences have made, critics have deemed, in their heads. And below them are your people like Jean-Claude Van Damme, your Chuck Norrises, your Steven Seagals. I think I don't get his following whatsoever. But you have the guys below them that were pretty also steady with what they were doing. I would argue Van Damme probably being the most popular out of those three I just mentioned. I mean, he had, looking at his IMDb, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a well-known one that people like. People really like. I was like, it actually struck me when I was doing this and I was on the IMDb kind of pulling up some stuff for the development. How much stuff I'm looking, going, oh yeah, man, check that out. I've heard that's good. Like, he had a lot of movies that like are considered like pretty entertaining, not like action classics, but they're entertaining. Lionheart, right? Bloodsport obviously is like probably one of his probably his top 5 for many people. Universal Soldier, obviously, Time Cop, like all the stuff. I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to watch all these. I heard they're really good. Kickboxer was always on there as one. I was like, oh, I've heard a lot about this, and yeah, watch it. I get it. It's it's not like I said, it's a rip off Karate Kid. It's not asking to be the next great thing, but it's just saying like, hey, enjoy this movie. Just what I love most about a lot of like certain films I know you're not as into as I am, but they're like, hey, turn your brain off and just enjoy the ride. And that's what this movie does.
Okay, you snuck a backhanded compliment in there, I think. Yeah, nice.
Welcome. Like spookies.
Oh my God. Let things go. There's my advice.
Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
No.
God damn it. Yeah, the 80s action scene was special. I said it recently somewhere. I don't know if it was on an episode or just chatting in general, but I said like there's a bad movie and then there's a bad movie from the 80s. It's a different animal. They're ever like 80s movies were just fun. They were crazy, they were energetic, they were memorable, they often had a great soundtrack, and they were just, probably the result of like 3 or 4 sleepless nights of just endless coke binges. And you could tell sometimes that a slow and steady hand did not write this. And that's fine. It's the 80s. But that hierarchy you were talking about, that all comes from box office. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the king. I think he's like the most successful like box office star of all time. And then, Sylvester Stallone was right with him, Bruce Willis towards the tail end. But then you've got these, the lesser ones, I guess. Jean-Claude Van Damme, he was, he had his following, but he never had the box office success of Stallone or Arnold.
Mm.
And then there's, Chuck Norris just didn't care. He did his own thing. And Steven Seagal, I want to reiterate this, became famous on a bet. Like, look that story up. It's true. Some guy was like, I bet I can turn any schmuck into a movie star. And his buddy's like, you know what? I know a schmuck who teaches karate downtown. And boom, Steven Seagal.
I got your schmuck right here.
Yeah, basically. It was like trading places, but for real. But yeah, I love 80s movies because even the bad ones are watchable. And the 90s didn't have that. Like the 70s and before definitely didn't have that. When a movie's bad, you fucking know. But the 80s is this weird little bubble where everything kind of worked, even if it didn't work. It's hard to explain. You either know it or you don't,
Yeah. I think, going back to my backhand comment, but there's plenty of horror films, obviously from the 80s. I'm like, this shouldn't work, but I'm having a hell of a time. Like nothing about this film should work, but I'm having such a good time. It's a weird thing that only seems to capture in the 80s. I think is what happens that they weren't going for that. They talk about that a lot with these guys who like the directors and stuff. They get interviewed and they talk about that a lot. Where they're like, we weren't trying for that. We were just trying to make a movie and people latched onto it, which is, I think the issue a lot of times going forward is now that everyone tries to just purposely make that type of film. It's like you can't purposely make it. It just happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's a vibe. It's a certain je ne sais quoi. It exists when it in a certain time and place, and then after 1989, it was gone.
Yeah, God, going for horror fans, right? With obviously the cult following that surrounds something like Spookies. If you purposely try to make that, it wouldn't work. The reason that film works for so many people is because that is a case of we'll get into it one day on this show on that one, but that's just a case of literally trying to get a film made and literally trying to get it finished and hoping for the best, and people latched on. Like now it'd be like we gotta do it on purpose because ha ha ha, wink wink wink, and it's like no, fucking stop.
Yeah, I think of a film like Maximum Overdrive, directed by Stephen King, who took his own project into his own hands, snorted 3 or 4 lines, and thought, I am a director now. And got Emilio Estevez and a bunch of 80s names to be in this movie with an AC/DC soundtrack where they're attacked by killer trucks. Sounds ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's a great watch. They remade it in the 90s as Trucks. Terrible fucking movie. It's an 80s bubble movie. And there's so many of those. It's the best. It's my favorite decade for film because everything exists in that time and place. Like you could not make Back to the Future in the 90s. And I know Back to the Future 3 came out in 1990, but fuck you, they filmed it in 89. So
and also it was the third film in an ongoing franchise. So I mean,
it's all part of that thing. It's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, no, 80s, like I said, I never talked about before. 80s is probably for me, probably my favorite decade of cinema. It's hard because I pretty much like there's a little bit of everything I like about each decade of cinema from the very beginning. You know what I mean? Like 70s was the auteur decade where we really got visionaries coming out. And then 80s was like we just talked about anything goes. 90s, I've said it before, I'm saying it again, it's underrated shit. At least, especially, I know obviously the whole horror is dead thing. Fuck that. There's plenty of great horror films in the 90s. You just didn't watch them.
The thing with the 90s is that, it got majorly influenced by, the grunge scene and this kind of just vibe of like depression. So there's a lot more sadder films in the 90s. I mean, there's some fun movies, but nothing like the 80s. The 80s is all just like, let's have a good time. Who cares if this is good? You're going to enjoy it. Like, where in what other decade could you have like a handful of movies about like teenagers skiing and like fighting a corporation? Like they did that kind of movie like 5 times.
All right, well, just the slasher craze, for Christ's sakes. Like they were like, look, people really like watching people get murdered at summer camp. We're just going to keep making that.
Yeah, and they're all classics. Like there was no, hey, you copied that in the 80s. They're all just like, oh, you made a killer at summer camp movie too? Let's watch it.
Yeah.
I missed that. I wish that we just maintained that through today. I mean, if the 80s had never ended, that would be cool.
God. Yeah, like no one sat through sleepaway camp and went, "How dare you copy Friday 13th?" They went, "Oh, this one's cool too." And holy shit, that ending, which I'm not going to get into it now. I know there's a lot of both sides.
Josh and I took care of that on FILMGAZM.
Yeah. I just know that I'm a big fan of it myself, so I like it. The movie, like the movie. I do think the whole pedophile thing's like really fucking weird. Never.
Yeah.
That part's weird. That part I'm like, why is this okay? 80s.
It was also a decade where I do believe every idea got greenlit. Nothing got left on the cutting room floor. Anytime you had an idea, somehow it ended up in the movie.
No, because everyone was on coke.
Yeah, it's the best. It was a vitamin that helped you make better movies.
Now we're all boring and don't do coke. Well, I hinted at the question earlier. So while we're on this, going back to that hierarchy, right? These are quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, so don't get mad at me, lesser stars of 80s action cinema, right? Box office wise. Of these three gentlemen, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, who do you think comes out as the best based off the limited things you've seen and know?
This is 100% Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, he could do a split. No one else could do that.
Yeah, and his splits look painful. Go on.
Bloodsport that was my introduction to Jean-Claude, and I gotta say, it's a pretty fucking awesome movie. Bloodsport's cool. That's a fun watch.
I haven't seen Bloodsport yet. I've been wanting to.
It's very similar to Kickboxer. Bloodsport's based on a at the time true story that the writer then admitted, yeah, this didn't happen. But at the time, he was plugging like, yeah, I went to the Far East. I competed in this life or death martial arts tournament. I won, and then I wrote my story, and everyone was like, cool. And then somebody asked him like one question, and he folded immediately. But if you take, with or without that, it's an awesome movie. And yeah, I love that, he ended up playing the bad guy in the Expendables 2 with the super creative name of Jean Villain.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, what? I'm one of those that like, especially with the first three Expendables, less so with the fucking third one. But with the first two, I was fine with that whole Jean Villain thing. So I'm like, look, they're supposed to be like this cheesy. It's the aging action stars mixed with the new blood, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it works because it's so cheesy, which is what, as much as I love some of these films, some of them are cheesy. You know what I mean? Like some of them are cheesy in a good way, in a very good way, but that's why it never bugged me. I was like, well, I get it. Like it kind of fits with what we're going with here. I actually think Expendables 2 is fucking awesome. And hey, we gotta see him do the round. I still lose my shit when I see him do the roundhouse at his age.
Yeah.
In Expendables 2. I think he was like in his 60s at that time.
Yeah.
50s, somewhere around there.
In there, yeah, but it was really cool that he even, came back. He's part of that crowd. And so is Chuck Norris. Seagal couldn't be bothered. He's limited up with Putin right now for some reason.
Yeah, I think he's the only one that never came to the franchise. They were able to get Norris for 2 also, actually. I think that's also why I like 2, because they even got like more people in.
Yeah. Those are fun movies. But yeah, in terms of the hierarchy, Jean-Claude is up there. People remember him. Like I've never met anyone who's actually watched a Steven Seagal movie. Like they
I don't,
exist, but I don't know anyone who's actually seen any.
I've had like the occasion person that tries to feel like, oh, you gotta see things like Executive Action or like insert random titled Seagal film here. Like, oh, you gotta see this one and you'll get it. And I'm like, no, I won't, because this guy is not good. I'm like, his action sucks that I've seen on screen. His acting sucks. Like, there's no compelling reason for me to watch. Whereas I'm with you in Jean-Claude Van Damme being the best. Like, I think based off the amount of like just hits he had, the following he has, I think the only thing that takes him down is he's kind of known to be a diva and have kind of a bit of an attitude to deal with. But movie wise and the fan following, Van Damme, I think Chuck Norris is actually pretty close behind him though. Just because, like, no, he hasn't done. I would argue he hasn't done as many well-known action films, but it seems like the fucking fervor around him is strong though.
That was when those, weird jokes showed up. I don't know when that happened or why that happened, but that exploded and turned Chuck Norris into kind of a living meme.
Right, which to his credit, he embraced. He didn't shy away from it. He's like, yeah, okay.
Well, he needed the career boost, frankly. I mean, Walker hadn't been on TV for quite a while.
That's true. That's actually the reason I knew about Chuck Norris, because my grandma loved Walker Texas Ranger. And I was like, who's this guy? And she's like, Chuck Norris. And then that's when I found he had, Missing in Action and other stuff back in the day.
I knew him as the guy from the Total Gym commercial. And I still have not seen any of his movies.
I don't think he's come back for I know CW rebooted Walker. I don't think he's shown up in it to talk to Jared Padalecki.
I think he's like in his late 70s.
Yeah, but he's still fit as a fiddle. It's kind of scary.
Total Gym. There's something to that. I mean, him and Christy Brinkley were selling them, and they both don't age. So there might be something to that. I remember I was watching a compilation of the cheesiest movie quotes of all time, and Steven Seagal was on there at least 5 times. And one stuck with me, and from hearing this, I thought, I'm never going to enjoy a single film by this son of a bitch. I think it was from either Above the Law or On Deadly Ground or one of those dumb fucking. It was somebody said, like, you can take that to the bank, and he replied with, I'm going to take you to the bank, to the blood bank. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I bet he thought that was the most badass shit he could say. But this is why there's a hierarchy. This is why there's a pecking order in the 80s action scene, because everybody shits down and it all ends up on Steven Seagal.
All ends up on
Yeah, that's why his movies suck.
Yeah. I like how no matter what, he is always just dead last in the pecking order.
He's even considered like the worst host Saturday Night Live has ever had. Like they've all said he's the worst one because he was just such a prick. He refused to do any skit where he like lost a fight. Like he doesn't make fun of himself. He thinks he's a martial arts master and a cop, apparently, according to Tom Segura.
Oh yeah, he had like a whole show. Yeah.
He's just so delusional. He lives in his own weird little world that like he surrounds himself with people who just reinforce that. And that's why he's living it up in Russia. He's an enigma. He really is.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just laughing at that, Stephen. The Tom Segura joke, because I do remember that joke when he talks about like his replicates his karate.
Yeah, you can block it like that. I do feel he puts that much effort into it.
Oh, he absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, look, like going to like the middleman this bunch, right? Like Chuck Norris, like, yeah, you could probably argue he probably also doesn't really have the most illustrious career, but at least from what I've heard from various reports, it's that like he's a super nice dude. He's great to work with. So like he's willing to make, like we saw with the meme thing, he didn't sit there and get mad, like stop making these he embraced it. He completely embraced it. And when he did Expendables 2, he made Chuck Norris jokes. So like, he's at least willing to have some fun.
And I got, personally, fighting Bruce Lee gives you major points. So I accept that too as like a big win for Chuck. Yeah. Way of the Dragon.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So like No, you could argue like between Van Damme, obviously Van Damme has had a slightly more successful career probably, but at least Chuck Norris, like he's been able to stay afloat because the dude's just, from what I understand, a really awesome guy.
That's good.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have, I don't know if I guess successful career. I'll say it. Fine. All right. he, he's 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 Chuck Norris. Like, why wouldn't he be happy about that? But Steven Seagal's got to think every day, like, oh, I'm Steven Seagal.
No one takes me seriously.
Oh, like you got to wake up and psych yourself up. That's a shit life. Chuck Norris is just, what's Chuck gonna do today?
What new Chuck memes on the internet today?
How many total gyms am I gonna sell today?
I'm gonna go talk to my buddy Jean-Claude.
I don't know about that.
I know Van Damme's pretty. From what I've heard, he's kind of a prick himself. From what I've heard.
Yeah, but he's got more decent movies. So
also he wins out due to the fact that he has a lot more hits under his belt, a lot more fan favorite hits.
And he was almost the Predator. So
yeah, but one of those things is apparently he complained a lot.
Yeah, they were like, "You're too short. Get out of here." Yeah. I wonder if that would have derailed his career or increased it or what. I don't know. Probably nothing, because I don't think anybody would have realized it was him, and everyone would have thought that monster is not that freaky in that Predator movie. I'll see something else.
Yeah, who knows? But he has a career. He has the hits. He has actually several of his movies are still ongoing. Like I said, Kickboxer, Universal Soldier has been going for a strong while now.
Yeah, but I don't think he's been in any of those.
He hasn't been in any of the recent. I think he was in like one very recent one, and that was it. I know he's come back for like the last two Kickboxer films that they did, and they're supposed to have like a third one coming out. So he's come back to that. I guess he really enjoys Kickboxer.
I don't know how much he enjoys Kickboxer. I think he just really enjoys having money. I mean, but he has done some, like they did a movie a few years ago called JCVD.
I hear a lot of things about that.
Yeah, he plays himself and he's like locked in a bank during a bank robbery and he tries to like psych himself up to save the day or something. I'd like to see that. I think that'd be cool. I think it would show a different side of this guy.
Yeah, one we don't get a lot, one that doesn't take himself so seriously in film.
I mean, he is one of the few like 80s action star who bleeds. Like we see him get his ass kicked. We don't see that a lot in a lot of the other guys.
Well, no, I mean, look, you're going to cast Schwarzenegger in a film. You're not going to see him bleed. You don't see him kick ass.
Arnold took a laser blast to the arm in Predator that was blowing heads open not 5 minutes prior, and it didn't even phase him. He got like some minor burn. Yeah, he doesn't bleed.
That's how big his muscles are. All right.
Blast open Bill Duke's head, barely touch Arnold's arm.
Look, to quote Jesse Ventura, he doesn't have time to bleed.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, that's really all I had for that's just a more fun question this week. My mind was kind of on other things admittedly when I came with the question that we talked about off camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But we good. We good now. So with that, unless we want to add any more, I can go into another week of a relatively scant development hell.
Yeah, let's see what happened.
Mostly fun factoids, if I'm being completely honest. Scant Wikipedia. So not much. So in case you probably didn't see it in the opening title sequence, Van Damme himself choreographed and directed all the film's fight scenes.
Impressive.
Yes. But and this actually goes nicely back to our question earlier. Before he was cast, the role he played was originally supposed to be played by Chuck Norris.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it would have made more sense for them to be brothers if it's Chuck Norris. I like they have that one line where he's like, must have been hard growing up in Europe with mom. So it explains why he has a Belgian accent, his brother doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see, probably be easier with Chuck.
It'd be easier with Chuck. I just don't know if he could do the Muay Thai. Chuck had much more American fighting style in his movies.
True, but he could do a roundhouse like nobody's business.
That's true too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend Chuck Norris. I don't want to get beat up later. He hears this, he's like, "There's a disturbance in the force. Someone doubts my abilities."
Hilarious if I just see Chuck Norris like blast his way through your wall and then it's just over. Fucking Chuck Norris jokes. That was I went hard on the Chuck Norris jokes in middle school. I thought that was the funniest shit. I didn't even know who Chuck Norris was. I just thought that was so funny.
Everyone thought it was funny. Those jokes lasted years.
Yeah. I had like a factoid of the day calendar. I had t-shirts. Like that was yeah. Those were the days.
Oh, God. Simpler times.
Yeah.
Well, either way, we got Van Damme here again. Choreographed, directed all the fight scenes, and I think honestly, I'll get more into it later, but I do think it shows in a positive way. Um, as for the film's villain, Tong Po, I probably should look how to say this, but I'm gonna try. Uh, Michael Kesey. Forgive me for a horrendous translation. Who was a technical advisor and also a choreographer on said film. Overheard the production crew say, and this is a quote, no one come after me for this word. They overheard the production crew saying they were looking for a tall, oriental looking guy with a background in Muay Thai. Again, coming from the mouth of him, I understand that a certain word is not one to be said, but that is how it was described.
Yeah, different time. I gotta curb family members from just dropping the odd O word. It's weird.
Yeah, as soon as I typed it, I was typing this up and I was like, that one. But I was like, this is literally how it was described. What they're looking for. I was like, and it's the 80s, so of course they would use that damn word.
Well, I mean, he kicked ass. I mean, he was a freaky villain.
Yeah, he was. I really liked him. Those more fun facts with that though. So because you overheard, he did go ahead and volunteer, and obviously got the part. He's in the movie. Get this, he's from Morocco originally. So makeup was used to make him look more. Again, I'm just quoting from what I read. More Asian.
Hey, that's I don't like that.
This part was incredibly difficult to type because I'm like, none of this sounds good. None of this fucking sounds good.
They made him more Asian. That's well, fuck. It's the 80s. I'm sure that nobody at the time thought this is a bad idea. If anybody, they were like, "Oh, this is a great idea."
Yeah, everyone's like, well, now he looks like he's from Bangkok. We did it. God damn it.
I know this is terrible, but I couldn't tell. Like, good makeup department.
God damn it. I was gonna say, look, Bangkok's kind of like a melting pot, really, for Thailand. For being honest, right? Like, there's a lot of different people of cultural stuff that go there. You could have just had him be Moroccan, and it would have still made sense. I would have expected that in a place like Bangkok.
Yeah, I'm looking at what the guy really looks like, and yeah, no, he does not look quote unquote Asian. But whatever. This happens a lot.
80s. Oh man. Yeah. Now with that, more fun facts of it now related to him and Van Damme. Him and Van Damme, as we know, they're the enemies in the film, right? The whole movie is building towards their fight. They've actually both been very good friends since childhood, exchanging fighting techniques and trying their luck in Hollywood together. And they had cooperated on 2 films before they did this one.
Ha! That's cool. I didn't know Jean-Claude Van Damme had any friends. That's neat. Good for them.
Instead of him demanding to be in his show alone, he was like, I want my friend in there with me.
Oh, well, I'm glad that they both made it, I guess. I mean, yeah, sure. You know what? Yeah. This guy's a memorable villain. I've seen him in montages. Yeah, good work.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely imposing villain in my opinion. Like you believe this guy's a fucking psychopath.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Uh, Again, this is just more fun fact. All this is just me fun facts I pulled because there was nothing. So you remember the scene where he has to run from the dog with a piece of meat tied to his leg?
Yes.
That's based off of a real life thing. Apparently Jean-Claude Van Damme's teacher did the same thing to him when he was learning karate.
That's funny. Incredibly dangerous, but funny.
Yeah. Teacher was to counter your dangerous part. The teacher ordered he wear a protective suit and withstand the attempts of a trained dog to pull him to the ground. So he did have on a protective suit. Now, remember, this is probably before the 80s, so let's really think about how protective that suit was.
Probably made of polyester. Oh, well, maybe that's why Jean Claude can do the split so well. He lost to that dog.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know if that's some kind of ism you just implied or
It is whatever you think it is. All I did was inquire. I did not confirm. I'm in the clear.
you just implied Van Damme has no balls. Are you can you are you running to live with yourself with that information?
Yeah. Those are. How does he do those splits? There's got to be some damage down there. Some Jean Claude Van Damme has got to be down there. Anyway, I've always wondered about that. Like, that is not easy for a man to do, obviously. So when a man can do it, I have questions.
He just pulled it off. He's that good because he's a Van Damme.
Mm, nah, I don't buy it. If he was just that good, he'd have better box office numbers.
No, no, that doesn't correlate. No correlation, sir.
Apparently, we should do that movie he did with Rodman. That would be a fun episode. Double.
There's stuff. Oh, I was like, there's definitely actual bad Jean-Claude Van Damme movies we could pick instead of like picking the one that we both liked and has a good following around it.
We don't, it's not about the quality of the film. It's about what critics have said is bad. We have covered a lot of films on this show we've enjoyed. It's not up to us, it's up to the critics.
Are we saying the critics are wrong a lot?
Yeah, that's the whole point of this show. Get with the program, man.
No. That's it for fun facts. Or development, however you want to call it. Because from I know, production will be smooth, right? Post production will be smooth. And then next it came out, did pretty well. Like I said earlier, the critics very much not kind to it. Dull. Literally, the three big things I saw were dull, dumb, and just generally not over the top in a good way. One said, I was like, I don't understand how you pull that off.
Generally not over the top in a good way. What does that even mean?
I was so confused when I read that. I was like, what do you mean by that, sir?
It's not over the top enough, or it's too over the top, or is it so over the top it's normal? What the fuck do you want, guy? What were you watching? What were you expecting here?
You think he had like you're wondering of Jean-Claude Van Damme splits, but in like a really creepily aggressive way. Like it just eats at him that he just hates watching on screen. He's like, how does a man do that? How does he do that? It's just writing him throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, I bet there are some critics out there who have personal resentments toward performers or filmmakers or something. They just pour that into their review. I do know that's ironic considering how bad we've been shitting on Steven Seagal.
Yes. Justified, in my opinion. Sorry, if you're a massive Steven Seagal fan, I need you to rethink your love for action films. Still,
you're a massive Steven Seagal fan. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of other problems too.
Yes. Still, on that note, it would be enough of a hit to make it through, to have them do 5 films total in the original sequel series, the original main series, and then a rebooted movie that did get a sequel, and he talked about the one that hasn't come out yet. So box office was enough to warrant it going on for 6-7 more films, with the last 2 having Van Damme return as the mentor now to the new character. I found out.
So now he's the wise old forest teacher.
Yes, except
teaching. Nothing like learning Muay Thai from a white guy. Am I right?
Too fly for a white guy. So
Muay Thai from a white guy. Anyway, all right. I couldn't help it.
What if he sets his shop up next to Jet Li?
Jet Li's teaching kung fu. Jean-Claude's better kung fu.
Better kung fu. Or God, fuck, what was I'm mind blanking on the Ong Bak guy. Was that Tony Jaa? Tony Jaa.
Yeah.
He just sets up a shop next to him. He goes, you could learn Muay Thai from him. Or the white dude.
Tony Jaa would feed Jean-Claude Van Damme his own fucking balls. That's not even a fight.
No. That's why dude, so I know we've kind of shit on the franchise because we both not like the 9th film, but Furious 7, the one that had Tony Jaa in it, as much as I do really actually enjoy that installment, and I'm glad they actually filmed his fight scenes well, he would have destroyed Paul Walker. That would not have fucking been even a question. He would have annihilated him.
All I needed was Ong Bak to know that this guy meant business. And yeah, I've had nothing but respect for Tony Jaa ever since. Yeah, he'd kill anybody in the Fast and Furious franchise. He'd whoop the shit out of Jean-Claude. I think he'd even kick Jet Li's ass. He's the man.
Yeah. Don't tell Vin Diesel that. He probably thinks he could take on.
I would love to see that fight. I'll pay for the headstone.
Can you imagine if they can get Tony Jaa to a John Wick movie?
I don't think that would be a difficult get.
They got Donnie Yen for this upcoming one, so we got Ip Man.
That would, you know what? Somebody tell Keanu. I'm sure he'll get right on that.
Oh, yeah. And then before that, we got the Raid guys in 3.
So and we got the LA Cuisine guy. Don't forget him.
Oh yeah. So I mean, he's working his way through well-known kung fu cinema greats. What if he has been talking to Tony Jaa look, I can't get you in the 4th one, but we got a 5th one we're filming.
He's so cool. Yeah, I love kung fu movies, and Kickboxer qualifies, I guess.
It does to an extent, yeah. I think most people consider it kung fu.
I don't know, just he's a white guy. Kung fu always irks me.
Yeah, it feels. I mean, technically that is now the John Wick franchise, but
that's gun fu. It's a difference.
No, Equilibrium is gun fu.
And I don't think Keanu. I think isn't he Hawaiian?
Yeah, he's actually mixed.
Yeah, so it's not a white guy. He's he's from Lebanon. Oh, sweet. Okay. That's why I'm not bothered.
Well, that's just because it's also because it's Keanu Reeves. Why would you ever hate on Keanu Reeves?
I would not. But I will tell you, as a mixed guy myself, you can tell. You can always tell.
I'm glad you can. I'm glad.
I also love being able to make these jokes with no repercussions because I am a mixed race guy. I can say whatever I want within reason.
I'm not going to even entertain this conversation.
I know, because you can't, Gringo. All right, let's do this.
I want to make this so goddamn terrible if you keep going. I would alienate so many of our fans. Keep it up.
Oh, I have fun.
Needless to say, this film has found its way, obviously, as you can tell by us, and if you just go on IMDb, its way into the hearts of fans of this type of cinema and is to this day considered one of Van Damme's better films. I'm sure it's probably many people's top 5, top 10s, whatever list they have in their heads for Van Damme.
Top 5 makes sense. Top 10, I think, is a bit much. I don't think that's an unfair statement.
I don't know. When I was designing to be, I was like, this guy might have more well-known films than I
just because you've heard of them does not mean they're good.
That's exactly what it means.
All right, you go watch Time Cop, then tell me how good.
I've heard Time Cop's good.
I've heard it's terrible.
Well, that's because you have terrible sources.
And there's that one with Rodman we talked about. Like,
probably a good movie.
Rodman, not a good movie.
Probably a good movie.
Ugh, there's that one he did with himself.
Probably a good movie.
Actually, I kind of want to see that one. I think it's called Double Impact. He plays twins.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
They're probably good. Actually, I've been wanting to see Time Cop. I've heard good things. So, you have anything more to add to that very scant quote unquote development hill that I just provided for us this evening?
I do not, but I do wish there was more, because I bet this was not a smooth production, because Jean-Claude is not really known for smooth productions.
Dude, I thought I typed it into Google. I looked on Wikipedia. I looked at like nothing. I was like, do I have to own this movie to fucking find out anything? Or is Van Damme doing like PR work online, being like, get rid of that shit?
I am considering buying like high-end Blu-rays of everything we do, just so we have more sources.
Right? Like sometimes it's helpful when it's like, oh, I'm picking something that's in my collection because might need to be complete. I do have films that are going very much beyond the show in my collection, and they come with Blu-rays that tell me how the film got made.
Yeah, good stuff. Good for us.
Yes. Yeah, that's all I got. So unless you got more to add, we can move on to the awards, which it sounds like was a stress for both of us. Actually, I actually kind of had an easy time. So there's some, before we get into, there's some 80 mannerisms that, while I know we love quite a bit of it, there's some things that should have stayed in the 80s that prop up in movies from time to time, and that's usually what kind of makes sense in my list when it comes to these kind of type of films. So on that note, you'll know more in a second about what I'm talking about. Let's move on to our first one, Zack Snyder. And I got nothing other than like, I really hope after the mic drop the MCU drop did yesterday that Black Adam works out for you guys. I really hope.
If you're following that meme that's been cycling Facebook that says that Marvel's courting Zack Snyder to do Avengers Secret Wars, I would very much like you to rethink your life and wonder how you could ever think Marvel would be that stupid. So that's my hot take for the day.
Marvel has a cavalcade of fresh young directors in Phase 4 that they are going to probably go through first before they pick Zack Snyder.
If you're gonna drop the Batman ball, you don't get to work anymore.
Yeah, as we saw with the fact that the Shang-Chi director is doing Kang Dynasty, that tells me, they're looking at their new people to do this Avengers stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, my Zack Snyder award goes to a scene that I am respectfully calling Jean-Claude Van Damme. Because inexplicably, between the training and the big fight, we have a bit where Jean-Claude gets toasted and does a little dance, shakes his booty in some bar, and it goes on for quite a while. And I was kind of waiting for like, when is this going to be over? And then it kept going, and I'm like, is this padding out the runtime? Like, why are we watching Jean-Claude shake his groove thing in the middle of this kung fu movie? So, yeah, I was like, no.
yeah. It's almost like, even though he didn't direct it, he was like, I want this scene. Let the American audience must see me dance. My fans must see my moves outside of my fist.
I'm just picturing him pleading, like, I am more than just a fist. I am a beautiful human being.
As he's like ripping his shirt off randomly. I'm more than a person to fight for you. I can dance.
Oh, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, that's what I went with. I did have before that. I had a runner up, and it was towards the beginning of the movie. Well, I'll say that. No, I don't want to step on your toes. I'll say
Yeah, how
that.
about you not step on my toes, sir? I was about to be like, good, he didn't pick mine.
Well, it might have been my second choice. Let's see what you got.
Mine is a random ass scene that if you take it out, changes nothing, and I don't know why it's in this movie. And that is when you randomly get a shot of I was about to say Stallone. Van Damme sitting in the hospital room with his brother in a wheelchair. There's a nurse and a doctor, and randomly, unprompted, he rolls the wheelchair back, grabs the nurse's ass. They laugh it off, and she walks out, and then the scene cuts off. It goes to the next scene. And I'm like, okay, I know I just said 80s were 80s essentially, but holy shit, you could have like just not had that scene.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of just casual sexual harassment in the 80s. It's always played for laughs. That hasn't aged well.
No, it's a as a scene that has an age where it's like that, especially because like again, it'd be one thing if like you know what I mean. It's like when you, it's tough as they all watch like a rape revenge film. It's tough for those are as hard to watch, right? Because you got there's gonna be rape at the beginning of the film. We all know it going to these films, but then there's the revenge part, right? There's the catharsis. This was literally like unprompted, didn't need it. It's like a 2 minute scene, maybe less. Literally nothing changes if you take it out. Sorry, an hour and 37-minute movie. So what's 1 minute of not having this?
Yeah.
And it was like, why? Why? And it's like you just assaulted, essentially, you harassed a nurse, and we're just going, ha 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 ha. Look at what I did.
Yeah, that's some pretty bad taste. Interesting pick.
Yeah, and it has more to do with that character, which you'll see a running theme with some of my awards. Go on.
Well, it wasn't my that was not on my radar. My second pick was towards the beginning after Kurt finds out his brother's been paralyzed and he decides to go for a soul searching walk through Bangkok. Well, Fight for Love starts playing and it's just like the quintessential 80s sad time montage. He's just like, give me a sign. I need to know what I have to do. Well, Stan Bush just, is the guy who wrote "You Got the Touch" from Transformers. Like I knew that voice as soon as it came on. Like he does all the songs in this. And yeah, it was just like, really, we're gonna do this. This is actually happening. But then the dance scene came on, and I'm like, oh no, we got a winner here.
Winner here. Hey, I actually really like Stan Bush's music in this movie. I'm like, God damn, he is committing to this movie.
I'm not saying I don't like Stan Bush. I just it represents so much fucking cheese that I can't help but laugh at it. Like
Yeah.
I've got the touch on my iPod. I love that song. That's a motivational song.
Every time I think of that song now, thanks to Boogie Nights, I just think of Mark Wahlberg. I got the touch.
Same. Boogie Nights completely took that away from Transformers. But never surrender. That's still his.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, anytime I heard him come on, I'm like, holy shit, this is so 80s, but god damn it if I don't love it.
I miss the, walking around after something sad happened 80s music. Like we don't hear that's gone. I want that back. I want that subgenre back. Those songs were always so terrible, but also like you never forgot them.
Everything about that thing just left cinema. Like no one soul searches anymore after like a bad moment in film like they did in the 80s. Like, oh no, I must go search my life.
Yeah. The 80s.
Oh, 80s. All right. Well, good pick. I think I had a good pick. Let's move on to the Ed Wood, the worst line, which admittedly was kind of difficult for me to come up with something, but I found something quick.
I went with mostly delivery on this because Dennis Alexio, while definitely has the build of a fighter, not quite a great actor. And when you're up against Jean-Claude and you're the one who's standing out with your bad performance, that is saying something. So I went with when he's trying to convince his brother not to do the fight, and he goes, Tong Po is a killer, Kurt. Wake up. Is like, that's the conviction. Like, your brother's about to go in the ring with the guy who almost killed you, and you're like, come on, you have to stop this. You can't do this fight. It's so fucking stilted. You just don't buy any of it.
Well, and then like I don't know if it was like he was dubbed or something, but his sound mix was so weird compared to everyone else. It's like the most like driest American accent you could think of. I'm like, is he American?
Born in California, but he was dubbed over. I remember reading that. I just couldn't really find why.
Yeah, I was watching because I know you've seen it too. I have more and more recent years immersed myself quite a bit into the Italian horror scene of the 70s and 80s. So I've been able to really that just like you said with your little mixed race thing earlier, I've been able to easily detect when they're dubbing something because there is a distinct difference in the sound quality when they dub. And especially because, as you know, for those who don't know, in a lot of those Italian films, they didn't just dub the Italian actors so they could market it as an American film. I'm not going to get into it. We have plenty of episodes on, especially from Josh, who really loves this stuff. But it wasn't just the Italian act; they would dub the American actors who spoke English in the fucking movie. So every actor was dubbed, and you can tell it's funny. Really, it's honestly funny. It does create a lot of the charm to those Italian horror films, but that's why it's like when I was watching, I was like, is he dubbed? Because it's like an immediate thing for me because I've watched those films now. I've just been like, he has to be fucking dubbed. This does not sound right.
I don't know how it worked for the giallos, but I know for spaghetti westerns, I know what Sergio Leone would do a lot of times is he'd have everybody act in their own native language and then overdub with English actors. Like for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Clint Eastwood's obviously just speaking English, but Eli Wallach is dubbed over and Lee Van Cleef, and it's like it creates this weird atmosphere.
I want to say the Giallos did the same thing. The only difference was like I said, they even dubbed the fucking American actors. Yeah. When it was like they spoke English in your movie that you're trying to make it seem like it was made in fucking America. Why did you dub the English actors?
Hilarious, especially when you get like a shitty dub. Somebody just didn't care, and they're just like the conviction is so gone. And I hate that, but also like it just makes me laugh.
It's to me one of the things I've grown to really like love about that the Italian style of filmmaking, and I think why it's like its own charm, right? Whereas the spaghetti westerns, obviously, with like Leone, or like the giallo films of Argento and Fulci and Bava and whatnot, it's created like a weird charm to their movies where it's like I know again we've talked about, especially I know we've talked about quite a bit, me and Josh, when we did Cruel Jaws. But it's just it creates a charm, right? It's like because it's clearly them, and it's they've been very upfront about them. May not necessarily Argento, but some of those guys trying to just make an American film and thinking that it would get past us. Like, oh, if we just dub everyone, put an undescribed town into this, they'll think it's Americans. Like, no, it's very clearly Italian. Especially when the credits roll, and you have all these Italian names popping up, but then the director's randomly not Italian. It's like
it reminds me of like Tommy Wiseau in The Room, where he's like, I'm making a real American movie. Like if you have to say that, you're not.
Yeah.
Just make a movie. Doesn't matter. But if you're gonna try to force that, we can always tell.
Yeah, it's funny. But again, I do think there's a charm to it, and in a weird way, same here, with them feeling the need to dub an American speaking English in the damn movie. Like, you don't have to. If you dub him in a different language, I would get it. But you're literally just having him re-say the lines that he already said in the same language. Okay.
Exactly. What do you got?
Mine is also a line from good old Dennis Alexio, and that's just because I just absolutely hate his cockiness at the beginning of this movie, like with a passion. And that's when he gets the hooker and takes her back to the hotel. And Van Damme, he was clearly smarter. It's like, hey, be careful. She's probably gonna want your money or whatever. You got money to pay her, because he's thinking, yeah, you just picked up a hooker. She's gonna want to get paid. His response, I don't know if hooker's a bad word now or not. I can't keep up anymore, so I'm gonna assume it's still okay to say that. But he responds in like the most like bigoted, ignorant American way you can think of. She doesn't want my money. She wants the champ. I'm like, you clearly don't know how sex work. The sex worker industry works here, buddy. She doesn't care who the fuck you are. She wants her money.
That is, yeah. He is such a prick the first half of this. Not the first half, like the first 20 minutes. But I guess that's just to make you not feel that bad when he gets his spine fucking crushed. I had a follow-up one. I almost went with, I don't remember the exact details, but he's like being interviewed by the media about like, hey, what do what do you think about the champs in Thailand who are, where Muay Thai comes from? And he's like, oh, Bangkok, like Tokyo, it doesn't matter. I kick ass everywhere. I'm like, oh, dude.
Yeah. This guy was something fucking special in the first part of the movie.
You cocky American asshole.
Yes. And I think that's why I picked the science. Just to me, it exemplifies that, especially, obviously in America, prostitution is probably one of the most frowned upon things in America. It's like one of the oldest fucking industries we have. But in a lot of other countries, they don't give as much for shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just another job you do. And so a lot of Americans will go. Don't ask me how I know this. I will not divulge my secrets. But a lot of Americans will go to these countries and obviously want to partake because it's a lot more accepted, right? In places like Japan, Bangkok, very much accepted there. Obviously the red light district, everybody knows about Amsterdam, right? So a lot of people go there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're fucking just goddamn Joe, Jim Bob from Kentucky, or you're LeBron James. After you fuck them, they want their money.
He seems like the kind of guy to beat the shit out of a hooker for asking for money. This is not the first time he's figured, champion dick is a proper currency. So, yeah, he's going to do whatever he's going to do. And Kurt's going to fucking watch because that's what he does.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. It's like they forget that they're not doing this necessarily because they enjoy it. Not saying there aren't people in this profession that do enjoy the sexual liberation in their eyes for it. I'm not here to pass judgment at all. That's not what I'm doing. If you generally enjoy doing this, you enjoy doing it. Okay. But like anything where it's this or being a fucking stripper or insert any kind of sex industry work at all, at the end of the day, it's like any other job. You're doing it to get paid to make money. So yeah, they're going to want their money regardless of who you are, because that's how it pays their bills.
I'd be way more pissed if I got stiffed in this profession than like just working construction or something. Anyway,
yeah. So that's why I picked that line. Just kind of a lot of layers in a weird way that I actually didn't think about until we talked about it. I had no backup. That was it. So unless you have more backups, we can move on to our Steven Seagal. I wonder if it's the same person. Let's find out. Worst performance. What do you got?
Dennis Alexio.
Yep, we picked the same person.
So I was genuinely surprised at how good Jean-Claude was in this movie. His English isn't great. His delivery is a little stilted sometimes, but he commits.
Yeah, he actually cried in the scene, and I was like, oh damn,
yeah,
ocean
man tears in the 80s. That's weird. Hypermasculinity was a real thing in the 80s, man. You didn't cry.
Schwarzenegger never cried. God damn it.
Nope. Until 2010s, we started making dramas. They cried.
Yeah, he did. Stallone did cry. Actually, watch Rambo. First Blood. He's crying in that amazing speech. I'm not going to answer that now, but goddamn, that speech great.
But this guy is it's the stilted delivery. It's the weird overdub. It's the just lack of compassion, just a terrible douchebag character. And yeah, I didn't like him. I was kind of hoping what's his name? Tong Po was gonna just, kill his ass. But again, I guess somebody said, Rocky Four, and everyone kind of backed off it. So
Keyboard. You kind of hit the nail on the head, but I'm the same way. It was I'm not saying Jean-Claude Van Damme's an amazing actor. He wasn't amazing performance-wise in this, but you could tell, and I'm sure it's true in other films he's done. He is trying. He is committing as hard as he can to it. You know what I mean? To his credit, he is giving it his all. Even if the accent and stuff causes some stilted dialogue moments.
Yeah, but I don't want to fault anybody for, acting outside of their native language. That's just not fair.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I can forgive, like, I've said it before, I can forgive if they're doing their job and they're trying. And that's what Van Damme is doing. He's doing his job and he's trying.
Yeah.
So I can't fault him for that at all. This guy, it's like I said, it's stiff. The dubs in a movie that no one else is dubbed in. That's another thing. Okay, at least, like, to the Italians' credit, it was we're dubbing everyone or no one. There was no middle ground. It's everyone gets the treatment or no one at all. In this one, it was no one else is getting dubbed but you, even though we are all speaking English and so are you. So yeah, it's a weird dub decision. And then he's the biggest fucking prick. I get it. You want to make someone, you're trying to make this guy cocky. Like, that is the point. He is cocky. He thinks he's hot shit. But there's no redemptive arc when he does live and comes back into the picture for us to kind of forgive and go like, okay, well, he's had his redemption. He's learned the error of his ways. No, we get like I said, that random scene where he touched fucking nurse's ass. I'm like, oh no, he's still a fucking prick. He's still gonna be the same old guy. He's just in a wheelchair now.
Yeah. Now he's just easier to get away from.
I just clicked on what you said. So I'm with you. I personally, they should have just killed his ass. Like, I think Tong Po should have been like, and that's something I'll get into in my next award. So I don't want to get into it too much here, but it would have made the threat greater. I'll leave it at that. Outside of Tong Po, if they had just went ahead and committed to like killing him, and then that's the driving force for Van Damme to be like, I have to get my revenge.
Never surrender. I agree. Yeah, the stakes. I mean, if somebody's gonna, break your brother's spine, you're gonna want a pound of flesh. I get that, but if the guy's okay, doesn't seem to be that broken emotionally by this. I'm not saying let it go, but maybe don't commit to learning the entire art of Muay Thai. Maybe just get a gun. I mean, anyway. But yeah, I think some higher stakes probably would have been better.
Yeah. They would have, but before I get too into that, let's go ahead because it's part of my next award anyway. Let's get into the Michael Bay then, the worst filmmaking decision. What did you come up with?
Speaking of stakes, we already have great, decent motivation here. Kurt's brother's paralyzed by this prick who's like, I am the baddest motherfucker in Bangkok. Don't you fuck with me. And he learns the art, the ancient art of Muay Thai from this guy in the woods and becomes the White Warrior. Just a little on the nose, I thought. But on top of that, do we need his girlfriend to get raped by the bad guy too? I mean, that came out of nowhere, amounted to nothing, was not the spark he needed at the end to like kick the guy's ass. That was seeing his brother alive. So there's no point to this. It's just unnecessarily cruel. So I would have completely cut that out and just not gone there.
Yeah, it was a weird decision. It almost flew by me. I was watching it. He said the dialogue and went, uh-huh. And like a minute, I was like, wait, oh my God, why did we put that? It was like a minute of me kind of sitting there and then being like, holy shit, why did we put that in the movie? I was like, why was that put into the movie? It did not need to be put in the movie.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean, we already hate this guy. We don't need that too. And like I said, there's no a cathartic moment either. It's just, Jean-Claude just screams, no. And then he sees his brother and he's like, all right. And then he starts kicking ass. So it's just mean and cruel and gross and uncomfortable.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere, really. This actually kind of feeds greatly into mine filmmaking decision, which is that for those who probably don't know at this point, Tong Po apparently is part of a larger criminal organization in this movie that never feels like that much of a threat throughout this entire film. So it's almost like, and that was my thing, was like having your criminal organization just not feel like that much threat, right? That's what I put. So it almost feels like as if they were doing this movie and they went, oh shit, this organization kind of isn't, we didn't make the most threatening thing ever. You know what? Let's have Tong Po rape her off camera. It's like maybe not the decision, maybe excise rape and just make your criminal organization more threatening, or I don't know, just get rid of it. Like you clearly weren't committing to it.
Well, I mean, we've seen in past episodes of this show, i.e., Daredevil, what happens when you don't throw the fight that the mob tells you to throw. People die. So this movie does not have a happy ending. After they go outside, they're gonna get gunned down by like the fucking triads or whoever these guys are. They're not gonna let this go. They humiliated their big fighter. That one dude lost $1 million of the boss's money and got kicked in the face. Like, there are slights to be righted here.
I love how like Van Damme takes out the guy and then he just comes over to stand by him like fucking mouth agape, and Van Damme just finishes his kick on him.
Yeah, it's we get that 80s ending where everyone celebrates, but when that's over, they're all gonna die.
Every single one of them.
Yep, all of them, everyone they know. No one's going home. This is, yeah. I think that's actually what happens in Kickboxer too, because I saw in the synopsis that like Kurt's dead. So yeah, it's like their brother they didn't talk about. There's a third brother, and he's the kickboxer for like the next 3 movies.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like it just, you could tell they weren't fully committed to this criminal organization aspect, and it never comes together. And apparently, I guess they had to find a way to work into the sequels.
Yeah, they had the sequels are all criminal organizations and somehow need to be solved by some kickboxing. I don't know. I don't ask questions when it's a franchise that big. Most of them are probably going to suck.
Probably. So yeah, interesting in a way that we kind of had like the yin and the yang of first filmmaking decision. It fed into one another.
Yeah.
So on that note, let's do something that was probably easy for both of us because we both really liked this film. Silver lining. Positive. So what was a positive you put down?
So after the brother Eric is revealed to be A-OK, he's like, hey, Kurt, because Kurt heard that over the roar of the crowd and gave a thumbs up. Kurt fucks Tong Po up, and it is so satisfying to see him just give it to this asshole and just whoop him in like 5 minutes. It's very satisfying to see this guy go down, and it was a great fight. And then the icing on the cake of just kicking Freddie Lee in the face. So that whole bit, the whole ending, I was glued. It was like the end of Rocky where the music swells and he kicks ass.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm actually with you. I put both that scene and then the actual after the dance, but the bar fight scene afterwards when he's like drunken bar fighting. I have both those on my silver lining. Just the fight scenes and the choreography and both is outstanding. Yeah, like you said, for the climactic one, it's satisfying. You're seeing him like take these hits. He's trying to just play along to keep his brother alive, and then he goes somehow hears his brother over the crowd, and it's like, oh, okay, good, he's alive. We got him out. Now I'm gonna fuck this guy up.
I almost put the scene where Winston shows up with a machine gun and like takes out the bad guys and saves the mentor guy, and then he's like silhouetted in the doorway like a goddamn hero. Like, this is so cheesy, but I'm on board.
I'm in. You got me, movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes like that are just great. Like when he summons the strength to actually kick down the tree. Like that was hardcore.
Yeah, especially when you see his leg afterwards, you're like, oh, that looked painful.
You felt every one of those hits. Like, eesh. I wonder if I wouldn't put it past Jean-Claude. I mean, I'm sure somebody loosened that tree,
Probably.
but maybe he kicked that tree down.
You know what seemed like painful to me when like the teacher is like stretching his legs out.
Oh,
Like the first time when you can just hear every little noise, I'm just like, oh God, stop it.
yeah. I kept expecting him to like lose his grip on the machine, and it just like swung his legs open, and his nut sack just ripped open. That's what it felt like was going to happen. Thankfully, no, because I'm sure that was Tuesday to Jean-Claude. I'm sure that didn't hurt in the slightest. Much different movie if all of a sudden just and just this tear noise, and you just hear screaming, and the rest of the movie's like him trying to get back from that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The image that popped in my head the moment you said that, like, God damn.
Yeah, you don't want to see a nutsack get ripped open, trust me.
All right, it's on that note, if there's unless you got anything else, we had pretty much the same silver linings, which is like Emily, the fight scenes are really awesome.
I'm not going to Kickboxer for the drama. I'm here to see some kickboxing. I mean, sue me.
What if someone's like, I came here for the trauma, damn it?
There's probably some asshole out there who's like, this movie did not make me cry, therefore it's not good. Like, you sound fun. Anyway, yeah.
All right. Well, that was a relatively easy silver lining to do. So let's close off the awards for this movie that should not have been hated by critics, and let's move on to what's in the box.
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
I am proud to say Showgirls has finally been dethroned as the highest scored letterboxd film we have covered on this show. Kickboxer has a 3.1 out of 5 stars. So that's now the highest scored film we've touched on this show thus far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which is good because I'm tired of bringing up Showgirls. I hated that movie. At least it's something that deserves it. All right. I got 5 reviews here that I thought were pretty funny, and I think you will too.
Okay.
This first one's from Greek Critic. Sometimes in your life, you just need Jean-Claude Van Damme overreacting for an hour and 38 minutes. 3 stars. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Bit of an overreaction. I've never had anything happen to me where I'm like, I need to learn a very disciplined style of martial arts in order to get my revenge.
Yeah.
Like, as I said earlier, I would just get a gun. No kickboxer's bulletproof. That's a fact.
Jesus Christ.
Oh. This next one is from Kevin Clark, and this made me laugh way longer than it probably should have because it's stupid. Lives up to its name. It is indeed about a kickboxer. 2 stars. Nothing gets past you, Kevin.
Watched Avengers Endgame. It was indeed the end game.
Turns out there are indeed ghosts in Ghostbusters. Yeah.
There was a Saw in Saw, but there was not 2 in Saw 2.
You could do this with every movie ever, and it would still be funny. I should have checked this guy's like review history. I wonder if he's done this. Like, is that his thing? Does he just
Keanu Reeves was indeed playing John Wick in John Wick.
They really do go into the Matrix in the Matrix. It's quite a significant part of the film, actually. In Beetlejuice, they do encounter a guy named Beetlejuice, so they're not lying.
And the hills have eyes. The hills indeed have eyes.
Turns out the shark does have jaws. So 4 stars. This is great.
Friday 13th. I found out takes place on Friday 13th. Good job.
You'll never guess what I found out about Halloween.
There is a nightmare happening on Elm Street.
Oh, that chainsaw massacre did happen in Texas. This is endless. We could do this for an hour.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin, for giving me that. All right, moving on.
God.
This is from Mr. James 72. I always think, yeah, if I do some more sit-ups, I could be like Van Damme. And then I remember that one time I dislocated my shoulder while laying in bed. Doesn't matter anyways, because it turns out I dance exactly fucking like him. 4 stars. Yeah. We all were like, I could probably do that. And then, nah.
I don't even have to dislocate my shoulder in bed. I have to get up off my couch. And immediately I'm like, oh, I cannot do that. When I hear the pop happen to my knees, I'm like, oh, nope.
Yeah. If you get winded touching your toes, you're not going to be a kickboxer.
The idea of sometimes like going to the store after I get home and I forgot something pains me enough to make me know, like, yeah, no, I can't do this. Like, I have mental anguish if I'm like, oh, I forgot something. Do I want to? Oh, no, I don't want to go to the store. No, nope. I'm home. I want to sit on that couch and do nothing.
Yeah, you're not learning Muay Thai. All right, this next one's from Frank's Wild Years. Love how JCVD just big dicks his brother when he says he's a better fighter than him after training for like 3 months, then backs it up by not getting paralyzed. 3.5 stars. He does just casually mention, like, I can beat him. You can't. It's like, he's been doing this his whole life. You just learned this shit. And then he backs it up.
Yeah, I love that. I just saw that. I was like, yeah, he does. He throws that in his face, and you're thinking, oh, he's going to get his ass kicked. Now, is he able to keep on trucking after like numerous rounds of getting his ass kicked to try to throw the fight? He then just goes, oh God, finally, I know my brother's life. I'm going to kill him now, and just absolutely annihilates him in like 5 minutes.
I half expected him to like run off with that same hooker and just leave Eric outside in the hallway.
So it's the same line. No, she doesn't want money. She wants the champ.
Yep, just in a slightly more Belgian voice. Like, complete shift. Now Eric's holding the towel and Kurt's fucking the horse. So, all is right with the world. I love the expression to big dick somebody. That is a great expression, and I'm taking that with me.
My favorite expression, I got this when I was like marathoning Game of Thrones before the god awful season 8. And me and my buddy would make jokes about like Jon Snow just throwing his dick on the table anytime he did like a big dick energy move. I was like, my phrase was like, oh, look who's putting their dick on the table. Which is just coincidentally what the MCU did last night for Deadpool 3.
Yep. They took out its scabby Deadpool wrinkly huge dick and just threw it on the table, and then Hugh Jackman chopped it in half with his claws,
and then it regrew.
Any questions? Yeah, that's a power move right there. I'm not gonna fuck with anyone who takes their dick out and puts it on the table. That guy's not afraid of anything. That's something Jean-Claude Van Damme would do in the 80s anyway.
After a roundhouse kick for no reason, just so people know he can still do it.
I bet he does that a lot. He's like splits and roundhouses just to show everyone that like he's still Jean-Claude Van Damme. Oh, and this last one just to me encapsulated exactly what this show is about. It's from Ash. Must a movie be good? Is it not enough to see JCVD spin kick the shit out of people and scream to an inspiring 80s soundtrack? 3 stars. You're goddamn right, Ash.
Oh yeah, Ash. Yeah, stop being so hateful. Like, look, I don't know anyone who, with a sense of good, actual right mind, goes in going, I can't wait to get award-winning acting from JCVD in this movie. You go in going, I can't wait for a committed performance from this man and some pretty kick-ass action scenes. Let's see how it plays out.
I have never gone to an action movie looking for performance. If I get some, great. That's awesome. But it's not expected.
Yeah, it's like when I watch my slasher or my torture porn films. I'm not sitting there going, God, I can't wait for great acting. I'm sitting there going, no, give me the goods. And if hey, someone does acts real guns for me, sweet bonus. But some of the gore.
Never surrender. Can't help it. I love it.
Oh,
Well, that's what's in the box. Quite a lot of love. It's actually hard to find some bad ones on Letterboxd. This is it's a decent flick.
yeah. Even on the IMDb, when I was looking up, the fun facts, a lot of people on their reviews, I saw on the blows talking about how it's like their favorite or one of their top 5 JCVD. Like it's a lot of love for this one. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I will probably end up buying this. I'd watch this again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So with that, look at that. It's been a while since we had a film on here that we both highly liked. And we're like, why is it hated?
Thank Christ. We need one of these every now and again.
Yeah, yes we do. Because do we need it going to next month? I'll get into it in a minute. First, before I get into next month and the start of a fun season, let's talk about the social media stuff. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and FILMGAZM Productions. If you want to shoot us a recommendation, feel free to email us at filmgasm@gmail.com. If you'd like to donate and support us in that way, you can find us on Anchor. And finally, feel free to go on our site, filmgasm.com, for reviews, shows, articles, and all of our episodes. And also, real quick, this will be coming on Friday. As a lot of people know, Hurricane Ian is coming through. So for those in Florida, wish you guys, wish everyone the best of luck. Hope, I know it's been hitting Florida pretty bad as we record. So, heart go out to people that, are dealing with that right now. Hope you are able to move forward relatively quickly.
Stay safe out there and do what you can to get to safety. It's
So just want to throw that out before we do that real quick and line the mood up. So, stay safe, be safe out there. With that, let's get into next week, what we're doing. So, as a lot of people know, next week will be our first episode for October. It's really technically been spooky season for me since September, but October is obviously when everyone gets on board this train. So there will be nothing but horror movies. I was going to say awesome. This is beyond the bad. Horror movies on this show for the month. And we are kicking it off at an original horror film called The Bye-Bye Man.
Originals being generous there. But The Bye-Bye Man. I remember the trailer for this and thinking, this is stupid. This will be interesting.
I watched this film once and it was painful, and I'm doing it again.
Yeah. Didn't I have to deal with that recently on one of our episodes? It was like a movie. Polar. Yeah.
Polar.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe this will be better. Probably not, though.
Oh no, this is gonna be bad. This is a bad movie. This is really bad. Oh, really bad. But yeah, that's what we're doing there. We're continuing this very love we talked about for the holiday season. On Filmgasm, we'll be looking at the solid, absolutely bonkers insane sequel, Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
Yes, indeed. And I really don't like that, subtitle before the main title shit that some movies do.
Yes. I think Tremors did that shit. And it was like Aftershocks, Tremors 2. And I was like, God damn it. Or it could have been Tremors 2 Aftershocks. I think it's just the way they put it on the poster was weird.
None of that Lost World Jurassic Park bullshit. No. Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. But I digress. I will be talking more about this on Wednesday.
It really bugs you. It doesn't bug me as much, but okay. On Oscar Sunday, they'll be looking at a 1952 American Western, which hopefully a title doesn't piss you off as much as Hellbound Hellraiser 2 does. Viva Zapata with an exclamation mark.
Yeah. What pisses me off about this is the fact that they cast a white guy as a Mexican hero. So we're going to talk a lot about misrepresentation and the careers of Marlon Brando and Anthony Quinn. It's going to be an interesting episode.
Oh God. Again, when I do this, I just try to see what the movie like type of film it is, so I can actually say that. I don't dig too deep in the Wikipedia, and I didn't read that part.
Marlon Brando was cast as Mexican revolutionary Emiliano Zapata, and Anthony Quinn, who actually is Mexican American, was cast as his sidekick. So,
God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys will get into that. That just angers me. Until then, when deciding to enter a kickboxing tournament in Bangkok run by some sort of criminal organization, apparently make sure you also learn the art of Muay Thai. See y'all next week on Beyond the Bed.
Never surrender.